All right, thank you all for being here. It is officially actually 2:01 now, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, thank you all for being here with me on the second day of Cisco Live. My name is Richard Jang, a senior product manager here on the AI software and platform team. So incredibly excited to be here with you all here on the second day. I hope you all went to the keynote this morning. We had such an exciting keynote talking about agentic ops from none other than our CPO, G2, as well as our SVP of AI software and platform, DJ Sampath. Now, today we have an incredibly special session for you all called Agentic Ops in Motion, and how we're going to be using AI agents to really unify that Cisco experience across the board. Now, so much to talk about today, but before we get into it, please make sure, if you like to, join that WebEx space, join the discussion. We have moderators in the room here and remotely that are going to be able to help to answer your questions throughout the presentation. Now, on a second note, please make sure to save your questions for the end of the presentation here. I'll be here after the presentation to answer any of your questions, or we can also connect and talk about it afterwards as well. Secondly, make sure to go ahead and download the PDF if you like. There's a lot of content that I created throughout this presentation for Agentic Ops that is probably never before seen for you all. So a lot of time has been spent into that. It's going to really help you to go along and follow along and take notes throughout the presentation here today. Now, before we really jump into it, a little bit about myself so you know who you're listening to. I've been at Cisco for about 8 years, always been in enterprise networking and IT experiences, creating troubleshooting solutions across Catalyst, Meraki. Now I'm building it for generative AI and agentic ops solutions. Now, secondly, a little bit more personal. I am a Taiwanese American, born and raised in the heart of Silicon Valley, San Jose, California. Also went to school there as well. All my friends are in tech, parents are in tech. Their friends are in tech, so you'll know that I love tech, and you're going to be able to see it through the passion that I have in the presentation here today. Now, last but not least, a little bit more personal. I'm a drum set player. I've been playing drum sets since 6th grade. Love rock music. Grew up in the age of punk rock. I've been teaching it myself for many years. So if you'd like to talk about that with me as well, love to talk and connect afterwards. So let's go ahead and jump directly into what we're really going to be here to talk about today. So the agenda is really a few things, right? It's going to be split off into three main categories. The first one is really talking about what is Gen AI, how does it work, and how does AI agents work, and what's the basic foundation about what all these things are, how you put those things together, right? You want to learn those things so you really understand the power of where we're taking agentic ops in the future for Cisco's vision. Now, secondly, we're going to go ahead and then talk about Cisco's portfolio of agentic ops, right? What are our products, right? And also give you guys a few demos of some AI assistants that we're building across, and then end it off with how we're going to be unifying it all and creating an ultimate experience that's really going to unify it across all your Cisco products, not just for networking, not just for security, not just for collaboration, but really for all the products. So let's start off with a really basic question just to make sure we level set everybody, right? What exactly is AI? So AI is a software that mimics human intelligence and performs tasks to solve problems. I asked it to ChatGPT, and this is the answer it gave me. And I always think it's very funny that these days we can ask AI what is AI, and AI will use AI to tell me what AI is. We really come full circle now at this point in time, right? And this is a really simple thing it could do, right? We could do so much more. But really, the point of it, what I'm trying to say here is that we see AI everywhere. We see every single CEO, every single CPO talk about AI. It almost feels like a buzzword, almost meaningless. But truth of it all is that it really is everywhere, right? We have deep learning with neural networks directly in your pockets today with facial recognition, probably at your houses, at your apartments, everywhere, right? We have voice-activated assistants with your Amazon Echo, with your Google Home, with your Apple HomePods, everything, right? Throughout, I'm sure many of you have that today with you, which uses natural language processing. But what we're really here all to talk about is going to be with AI agents, using generative AI, right, for full autonomy. And there's so many different things that have evolved from just a few years back when chatbots just came out. Like, I'm sure most of you probably started using it maybe around 2020, 2021. And that was the craziest thing ever, right? You can ask a question, and for the first time ever, it's not an if-else statement that's answering you, right? It's really able to tell you things that you never would imagine it's able to tell you. And as of today, if those of you who have not played around with the most recent version of it, there is so much more that it can do that you can probably never imagine. Now, why don't we go a little bit deeper into it, right? Now, I want to make sure that the foundation of knowledge is really set here. So I'm going to start with this, right? The breakdown of AI. So first of all, to be very, very clear, AI is a discipline, right, that encompasses all aspects of simulating human intelligence in machines. And why I'm bringing up this here is because I hear a lot of people that talk about AI, and they talk about ML, they talk about deep learning, and they don't really know the relationship to another, right? So at a high level, what I want to make it clear is that AI is a discipline, right? It's the highest level. When you talk about AI, you can really be referring to any aspect and every subset within it, such as machine learning, right? Such as deep learning to take care of more larger, complex data sets, right? All the way down to generative AI, where we're able to utilize neural networks to train models to ultimately produce new content, right? This at a high level is really what it's all about. Now, to get into it, right, how exactly does Gen AI training work? Now, at the very high level, right, all you really need to think about it is like this, right? I have training text. I'm going to use that training text. Could be code, could be articles, could be anything. I'm going to use that to train my model, right? Large language model specifically, and that's going to be able to help me to generate text or code or whatever kind of text, right? It could be things like poetry, like creative writing. It could be something serious like helping me to create a serious article, right? Or help me to create a schedule. Now, what about generative videos? Or what about images? Same thing, right? Except that instead of using something called large language models, we're using other kind of models, such as, for example, diffusion models, right? Which, same concept, you're going to be giving that model lots and lots of training videos, lots of training content, right? A lot of media tagged with different types of like descriptive text, right? Hey, this is a cat, this is a dog, right? This is a car, right? The model is going to be able to learn those patterns, and over time are going to be able to go ahead and also generate those kind of similar contents that you have, but created in a different way. Ultimately, at the very, very highest level, right? 30,000 feet. That's really what it's all about, right? Training models with tons of data so it's able to learn patterns and be able to create similar types of data. Now, these days, right, we talked about, hey, there's LLM, there's diffusion models, right? These are things that can help to generate content, right? When it comes to LLMs, what you want to know is that ultimately speaking, what it's doing is that it's taking in text and taking it and looking at all the parameters within the models and ultimately providing some sort of providing some text that it thinks is best answering your question. Now, on top of these LLMs, though, what really makes it fly, what really makes it dance, are these AI applications like Claude, like by Anthropic, or ChatGPT by OpenAI, or Google Gemini, right? These things right here are really what's going to give it additional capabilities, such as additional context, additional ability to reason, additional ability to do multi-turn conversations, right? Additional ability to actually go out and do actual things, because ultimately LLMs will give you information. These applications will help it to actually act on those actions, right? I want to schedule a meeting. Normally LLMs will be like, oh yeah, you know, this is what time, this is what your meeting agenda should be like. You can schedule it during this time, but you got to go schedule it yourself, right? Applications on top of that is really going to take that to the next level and allow it to hook up to the real world, help it to really do things. Beyond that, same thing, right? When it comes to things like diffusion model for image and video generation, we have so many different things here, right? Like DALL-E with GPT, or with OpenAI, right? Leonardo AI, right? Adobe Firefly, so on and so forth. All these things utilize the diffusion model to really make it so that anything that you're creating, whether it could be creating a website, whether it be creating some sort of software template, everything, much, much easier by adding additional tools, leveraging the intelligence of these models to make it better. So that at a high level is really what these things are all about, all based on the large language models, diffusion models, and that's why you hear so much hype around them. So I'm sure that all of you have played around with like basic chatbots before, right? Like, hey, I'm going to ask it to schedule something for them, or create a schedule for me, or ask them just basic questions. But you know, and this is what I would have normally presented back maybe like 2 years ago. Hey, I'm visiting San Diego for the first time in June. Give me a detailed itinerary, and then show you guys, hey, look, it's so cool, right? It's able to show me day-to-day, morning, afternoon, nighttime, what I should do throughout San Diego for my very first time. But at this point in time, this is cool. But we're actually much past this. We have much more advanced agentic operations that we're able to do beyond just generating this kind of text. We're at the point in time where I can say, hey, I want to go ahead, hey, can you help me build a working version of Flappy Bird that I can go ahead and play right here? Now, I'm hoping that all of you know what Flappy Bird is, right? What it is a game back in the day that came out on the App Store, and everyone was super addicted to it. It was a bird that kind of flies throughout these different obstacles that you can click on it, right? You crash into the wall, you die. That takes some, if you're a new developer trying to build that would have taken you, honestly, probably a few weeks to actually properly build that out. You had to design the UX, you had to design the back end, front end, so on and so forth, right? Nowadays, right, I have Claude right here. I'm asking it, hey, help me to create a working version of Flappy Bird. Now it just builds all the code right here. I fast forwarded a little bit, right, by 4x, but ultimately it took like, you can see right here, the game works right off the bat. Now I'm not very good at it. I tried 3 times getting get back to the first obstacle, so I stopped. But the point is, you can do everything right off the bat. It takes you almost no time at all to do it. It took literally 3 minutes. Secondly, I said, hey, what about give me a website that I can present on stage, actually. I said, hey, build a futuristic-looking website titled Agentic Ops at Cisco Live that I can show on stage. And it really just right away generated an entire website right here. HTML, CSS, everything that I can directly just show you. It's an interactive website. Everything works. You can click on everything. Back in the day when I was in college, I was trying to make my own website. I had to learn HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, everything from scratch. It took weeks to even set up something similar to this back in the day from scratch. Now, you can set it up within literally minutes by just typing in a few words in natural language. And you can just modify all of this, and it renders it directly for you to look at. You don't even need to figure out how to go ahead and load it somewhere else yourself, right? Everything works just as is. Now, beyond that, right, let's talk about generative art. I'm sure all of you, at least most of you, who are on social media, have seen so much generative AI videos, so much generative images, to the point that you question what is real or not. And that's because generative AI, when it comes to like images, content, is becoming so much more advanced than ever it is before. Now, back in the day, I would type in some images, or type in some prompts to generate an image, and every single time it would generate something just completely random. Like it will be the topic, but it'll look very different. Like, for example, this time I'm like, hey, generate an image representing San Diego, California. And this is exactly what it generated for me, doing no fine-tuning at all. San Diego, this is the skyline, pretty accurate. Looks like a postcard I would see at a souvenir shop, right? Now, before, if I typed it in again, it would just give me something completely different, like maybe some completely different artwork style. But now I'm like, hey, why don't you go ahead and have a dragon fly over? And it does that. It has continuity now, right? The same thing in the background, but now there's a dragon flying over. Even has a relationship of understanding the text is there, so it has a dragon wing flying over it. But you see how much more advanced it's able to get over periods of time of learning, right? And then it's just every few months, you'll see a big improvement. And then I'm like, hey, add more dragons. Make them fly and breathe fire over. And you'll see right here, it adds a few more here, again, keeping the same context in the background. So the point of what I'm trying to say here is that artificial intelligence with generative AI agents, is really going to make things just immensely better, right? More easily, the possibilities are truly endless, right? And these are just 3 small things that I'm just showing you as like, hey, this is what they can kind of do. Now, let's talk about, hey, how are you actually going to train an LLM, right? We'll give you a quick high level about this before we really jump into some more things about getting into agents, right? Just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, earlier we talked about, hey, you give it text. Yes, that's what you do, right? You give it text. So the first step here is really data collection, right? Basically, LLMs are trained on tons of text, massive amounts of text, right? What's it called? GPT-4o is trained on millions of books equivalent of data, right? What you can think about is like a massive warehouse of books. It's the amount of books that you'll never read in your entire lifetime. In fact, you can think about the analogy as really like, I'm training a model, right? You can think of it as a child. The child is just learning how to read. So you give it lots of content, right? You give it things like ABCs, right? You give it more bigger and bigger words. Now, what you do next when it comes to training a large language model is something called tokenization and vectorization. So the idea here is that computers, they don't learn by just storing big blocks of text, right? It's not storing those 100 million gigs of just books just within the model, right? What it does is actually it breaks it down into individual tokens, which are essentially words or subwords, right? Now, beyond that, then it stores it into something called vectors, right? So it becomes numerical values that actually allow the model to take it in. Because again, models are not using words, they're using things like numbers, right? And ultimately, you can think of it as, hey, I'm giving a child content, I'm gonna break it down into what each word means and teach it what each word means. Now, beyond that, the third step is gonna be called parameter learning, which now we're able to feed it through a neural network in deep learning, and it's able to learn the different relationships with each other. So ultimately, right, what it is, it's all statistics, all probability, right? I'm able to see that, hey, after the word name, the word name makes sense, is makes sense, Richard makes sense, before is makes. So the idea is that like you're able to it's able to understand every single word and what's the probability that goes before it, what goes after it, and that's why when you type in a generative AI application, an LLM application with a typo, it's still able to figure out what you're trying to say, right? That's the really coolest part about it all, right? I can type in a bunch of typos, but because it's able to have so much, it has so much parameters. If you remember, right, all these large language models have billions and billions of parameters. They've seen so much text online that even though you have a small typo, it's able to take in that context, all the things you typed in around it, and figure out most likely what you're trying to say, and it's able to get it right majority of the time. That's because we're able to utilize parameters to do so. it's able to learn, it's able to take in the typos and adjust it and learn what you're probably trying to say instead, right? It knows that that's not probably a correct word and able to, hey, I've seen lots of other text in the world, right? I've taken in 100 million gigs of books, exactly. And the question was like, does it ignore the typo, right? It's able to take it in and adjust and understand what you're most likely trying to say instead. So the one last thing that you want to know is fine tuning, right? All this happens, it doesn't just happen and it doesn't just work perfectly, right? It's not like we just feed a bunch of data into a model and boom, it works like ChatGPT 4.0. It's not like that at all, right? There's a lot of fine tuning that goes into this. For example, if I ask the question like, hey, what's my name? And it says, hey, your name is Cat. I mean, my name could be Cat, but my name is probably not Cat. So that's needs a little bit of fine tuning, right? And one of the terms you should probably know about is called human in the loop, right? The idea is that we're going to be here and be able to provide it feedback to be able to improve the model itself, right? And there's different ways to do it. One of the ways could be reinforcement learning with human feedback. The idea is like, I'm going to go in and tell it, hey, no, that's not my name. My name is actually Richard. Cat is actually not really a human name for the most part, right? And it's going to be able to go in and correct itself and be like, okay, your name is Richard. Right. The idea here is that when you're training these models, even for all these large companies like OpenAI for GPT or like Google Gemini, they have a lot of people that are hired to do this kind of tuning, to make it sound more human, to make it sound less robotic. Nowadays, you can still probably tell for the most part if it's something that, I'm sure you've all seen a LinkedIn post somewhere where someone just pretty much posts the output of an LLM. It's still pretty obvious these days, right? It doesn't sound natural. It sounds like very generic, right? Now, believe me or not, it sounded much more generic just a year back, 2 years back, 3 years back. Way, way worse, right? So the point is that this is still going on for every single thing, not just for text, for images as well, right? All these companies are finding people to go and give feedback to help to improve these things. Now, I guarantee you over time, it's going to get harder and harder to differentiate because humans are in the loop right here trying to make things better, right? Now, there's a whole concept about making it so that another LLM can also improve an LLM output as well. That's a whole entire separate topic for another time, but that's something just to keep in mind that we can do to really scale up everything. Now, let's talk about a key terminology that you all need to know as well, right? What's a model that's trained on a bit of everything called? Now, if you're in Gen AI, this is easy, right? If you're not, the terminology is called a foundational model, right? The idea is that a foundational model is trained on a little bit of everything. It's a generalist, right? It knows massive amounts of data sets. It knows about politics. It knows about chemistry, science, physics, math, everything, right? Now, when we say that it's a jack of all trades, but not an expert in everything, it's, to a point, it's accurate, but to be honest, right, it does know quite a bit about everything still, right, compared to the normal human, right? It knows a little bit about everything, but it won't know about like internal documents. It won't know about things that are very, very expert for a specific field, right? But the point is like this is what GPT 4.0 is, for example, right? Or Gemini is, right? You ask it generally anything, it'll be able to answer you about generally everything. Now, let's talk a little bit more detailed, right? So when it comes to LLM-powered models or applications, really at the core of it, it's really one thing. You give it an input, it gives you an output. And the characteristics of it is that it's going to help to do a few things. It'll understand what you're trying to say. It'll generate text for you. It'll do basic reasoning. It'll understand what you're trying to say and provide you what you're looking for. It'll be able to do multi-turn conversations. And that's another terminology, which means that it's able to understand the context of what you've been talking to it for the entire period of time. And then you're able to have a human conversation with it, right? Instead of like, hey, I'm sure you all had experiences with working with like service agents back in the day where you type in a question and then it answers you and you type in another question and has no idea what you're talking about anymore, right? Very frustrating. But that's the key thing about LMs. It's a basic requirement these days for having multi-turn conversations. And last but not least, right, in context to multi-turn conversation is context management. I can type like 1,000 different messages to an LM these days. Let's say I'm GPT 4.0, and I can ask it a question. Hey, did I talk about this subject like at any point in the thread? And it'll be able to answer right away. Yes, you did. You said this earlier today, and then this is my answer, right? Context management. Now, the thing about LLM models, though, is that they do have limitations. And the limitation is that you can't access private or real-time data. Now, I'm talking about back in the day. I'm talking about when we first started, right? When we first started LLMs, right? Now, the problem is that you get hallucinations, right? The thing about LLM models is that they love to tell you everything very, very confidently. Everything very confident, full confidence. Now, the problem is that it's not always correct. Now, so what we did here is that we introduced something called RAG, right? RAG is retrieval augmented generation, which essentially allows these LLM models to reach out externally to grab to a different data source and grab data back to it and then supplement that output, right? The idea here is that traditionally, right, when it comes to any sort of LLM, if you wanted to go ahead and add additional data, say, for example, right, there's a very popular one. It was back in the day, GPT was trained on 2021 data and before, right? And knew everything about 2021 and back before that. But then it's 2022, what happens now? It no longer knows anything, right? Or it no longer knows what's the current news. So it tells you only things that it knows. And what happens if you don't have RAG? You have to keep on retraining that entire model, whole entire process all over again, right? Fine tune it, it's a whole entire process on its own. So RAG now allows you to be able to access external data sources without having to retrain your entire model, be able to retrieve information in real time, access websites, access pretty much anything online, right? Or any data source, any database that you're pointing it to, right? And really makes it so that it hallucinates a little bit less, right? It gives it an ability to actually ground its truth in actual facts. That's the whole point of it. So that's the first terminology I want to make sure that you all know about. Now, a funny example here is like, hey, I'm going to ask you, what's my hair color? Right? Again, like I mentioned earlier, generative AI loves to say things confidently. It has no idea. How would it know, right? It doesn't have a camera looking at me. But it says, your hair color is obviously red because it knows it all. But of course, it's not red. So what can I do? I can go ahead and send it, hey, use RAG to grab from, for some reason I have a richer database, and it grabs from it. And it says, yes, your hair color is obviously black. So that's the high level example of what it can do. Now, it can do so much more than just grab data from a database, right? But you get the concept of how it would work. Now, the second thing I want to talk about here is the thing is that LLMs will help you to know things, right? That's what I was talking about. It gives you text, it gives you information, but taking actions is something that you need to do externally. You still need to take action yourself. It still relies on humans. So another thing that we invented later on, now this is the beginning of it, right, is before autonomy. And we have something called AI workflows, right? Users are able to, or admins or whoever, are able to put together multiple LLMs that are specialized in certain things and certain tasks to help me to kind of automate a specific workflow that I want to do, right? Okay, this LLM is good at scheduling meetings. This LLM is good at creating a post. This LLM is good at interfacing. I'm going to connect this tool with this LLM. You can think of it almost like a puzzle, right? I'm going to go ahead and sequence it myself so that ultimately it can do things for me, but I got to put it together, right? That's really the whole idea of it. It can coordinate multi-step tasks, right? Trigger in their external systems by basically hook up a tool to it to do so. And we had a lot of websites that help you to do that. A lot of companies were building things such as Make.com, Zapier, so on and so forth. There's a lot of things that help us to do those things. And this is before the age of the agents, right? Now, the idea here, like let me give you an example, right? Let's just say I'm a social media influencer. I want to post about LinkedIn and Instagram every single day on the latest and greatest about some specific topic, right? But I don't want to go ahead and read like 5 articles. I just want to have my LLM do it for me automatically, right? So I just wake up and then I have the things ready for me to go ahead and post. I'm a lazy influencer, right? So what I go ahead and do, I can, for example, for AI workflows back in the day, I can go ahead and put these article links within a Google Sheet, for example, right? I can go ahead and have an LLM reoccurringly every single day, let's say at 9 a.m., pull that Google Sheet and summarize all those different articles using RAG to go reach out to those links. Then I can send all that information to a router LLM, right? So now it summarizes everything, all the content. That router LLM will then send it to an Instagram post LLM, right? That will draft me with a persona and tonality what people would like to see on Instagram, maybe with some pictures as well. And another one will do it for in LinkedIn, right? And I can schedule the whole thing, right? This was something that is definitely helpful for me. And again, those are things that was really possible, right? You can go to Make.com, Zapier, so on and so forth. Those are things you can do. It's that those are helpful, but it's not really autonomous, right? Again, it helps you to accelerate things that you do very often, but you have to assemble it manually. And which really takes us to the next section right here, right? This is the important part. It takes us to the rise of AI agents. Now, this is really the history here, right? When AI was born, or LLM was born, we had RAG. And then, when it got more popular, we had AI workflows to put things together. Now, we're in the age of rise of AI agents, right? 2024, 2025, I don't think you guys even heard of AI agents until relatively in the recent future, or in the recent present, right? It's just something that just grows so fast. You can see it only started from 2019. We're not that far away. And there's so many things that have changed so far. Now, the idea behind agents and how it works is that it's just really all about autonomy. It's about the fact that I have the ability to have, basically my agents now, or what was originally just LLM assistants, have a significantly more reasoning, ability to reason, understand what I should do, and they also have the ability to talk to each other. right? Agent 1 specializes in one thing, agent 2 specializes in another, agent 3. Now, unlike AI workflows where I had to put things together, hey, go talk to this and go talk to that, they can figure out what each other is actually capable of doing, what they're specialized in, and figure out where they should go, right? For example, I'm gonna tell agent 1, right, hey, I want you to do X, Y, Z. It's like, you know what, agent 3 is gonna best be able to help me on top of that. It does some analysis, it sends the task to agent 3 to finish. Agent 3 is like, hey, I can talk to tool C, right? Tool C can be anything from browsing a web to accessing a Google Sheet to sending a meeting out, whatever, right? So that's the idea here, right? They're able to talk to each other. They're able to interface with tools, right? So agents and tools are a terminology that you want to remember. Ultimately, the biggest part of agents is that they're able to reason and plan. So that when you tell it something, it's able to list out, hey, step 1, step 2, step 3, this is what I should do, and I'm gonna go ahead and execute on it. It's able to determine what other agents it should talk to, what other tools should execute it. It should be able to do recovery, by the way. Right? One of the big things is that before, like if it gets stuck somewhere, it's just stuck. Right? But when it comes to agents, it should be able to figure out how it should get out of that loop. Right? So the idea here is that it's really just truly autonomous. So let me give you an example here. Let's just say that we have an LLM assistant, right? This GPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever it is, right? It could be not just these three, right? The idea is that if we have a network of agents, what it's really truly doing for us is like, hey, I want to go ahead and access a website, right? Let's just say like, hey, give me information about what's on the latest on Cisco.com. I ask that to one of my assistants. And now in the back end and in the front end, it might just seem like, hey, it's just an assistant doing everything. But in the back end, what could be happening is it's actually sending that to an AI agent that specializes in web, right? And in the back end, it has ability to, that web agent has the ability to access a browser or has the ability to access search API, right? Now, think about it for image generation, right? Today, when it comes to ChatGPT, if I ask it, hey, generate me an image. Now, ChatGPT is like known for LLM, right? You ask it a question, it answers back. But then, when you do image generation, it actually then switches the context to go to DALL-E 3 instead, right? So for example, you can think of it as like, hey, there's an AI agent that's able to interface with DALL-E 3 or something else that's able to help me generate images, right? Because my existing remote client right here, my client agent right here, is specialized in LLMs, right? So it wants to talk to someone else that's specialized in it. Now, what about I want to interface with like spreadsheets? Same thing, right? I have an agent right here that's going to be able to help me to talk to Excel, talk to Google Sheets, so on and so forth. So I think you get the point here, right? Instead of having these generalized LLMs that just do everything, you can now have a network of agents that help you to do very specific things that can talk to very specific tools. Ultimately, they can talk to each other, discover each other, and make it so that from anywhere, I'm able to do so many more things without having to explicitly mention exactly what I should be doing. Now, one thing to mention though, AI agents are cool, right? You heard it everywhere. Now, the one thing you want to make sure you understand is that without standardization, it's going to be chaotic. It's just like wireless, right? Wi-Fi, for example. If there's not a standardized 802.11, right? Every single company is going to create some different standards. No one's going to be able to connect to anything except for one device with another, right? So that's the idea here. Now, what's going to happen is that you're going to have inconsistent communication, right? Agents don't even know how to talk to each other because everyone has a different protocol. Same thing with tools. Every single tool is going to talk to an agent in a different way. It's going to be incredibly confusing. Beyond that, there's no shared state or memory in the sense that if I do something on one agent and I use a tool to go talk to a file, I get data back, and then the other agent has absolutely no idea what happened. So then it goes from zero again, and you got to educate it. It's a whole thing, right? There's no shared state or memory. It makes things very difficult to really be truly autonomous. And second to last is access control. Right? That's a big thing. It's a big security risk, in fact, right? If I don't know what access that original user has because I'm not able to properly pass it around because I don't have proper coordination, I don't know if I can access that. Or maybe I'm trying to access it and I don't actually have access. It's a whole entire thing. And then the last but not least is really troubleshooting, right? If things are not working, how are you supposed to troubleshoot across your network of agents if I don't have any sort of communication that really goes across the board? You can't. So the core things, the two things I want you guys to all take away at a very high level is that there's two main protocols here. The first one is going to be called MCP. Now, if you went to Keynote, you heard about that from DJ and G2 as well, Model Context Protocol, right? It's an ability to basically share memory, task state, and data across agents and tools. Now, it's at a very high level, right? Now, you can use it for many different things, but one of the things would be that, hey, it allows me to have a standardized way from one agent to talk to multiple different tools, right? Every single tool can be talked to using MCP. I can have an MCP server in between to keep that context between all my agents talking to all my tools so that whenever I'm getting data from any of my tools, from agents, from a specific workflow, it knows what data is being grabbed. It knows the context. Now, the second thing right here is going to be called A to A, right? So the first one's Anthropic, second one's by Google, agent-to-agent protocol, a communication standard for how agents are discovered and delegates and it coordinates with each other, right? So this is how agents talk to each other, how they discover each other. So let me give you an actual example here. So let's just say I have an agent right here. Now the first one that you're actually interfacing with, we can call it a client agent. Now, if I want to talk to any other agents, right, it's called remote agents right here. So I'm going to give you two examples, remote agent 1 and 2. Now, how does it discover remote agent 1 and 2? There's multiple ways that can happen, right? For example, remote agent 1 and 2 can actually be broadcasting their capabilities. Hey, I'm here. This is what I can do. Hey, I'm here, right? Client agent can be like, okay, there's a guy right there that's able to do the capabilities of what I want to actually accomplish. So I'm going to go ahead and use A2A to go talk to it, right? That's part of that's something that you can do with A2A. Now, the second way you can do it can be also a registry of agents of what they can do within like your ecosystem, across your network, right? Now, the second part right here is going to be how do I use these agents to communicate with tools, right? So the idea here is I can use MCP as a protocol, right? And you can see right here there's an MCP server that's going to be able to keep that context between both remote agent 1 talking to toolbox 1, which is essentially just a collection of tools, as well as remote agent 2 talking to toolbox 2, right? The context will be shared. So overall, let's just say I go from client agent to toolbox 1, right? And I'm able to get some data and some context. Then when I'm going back around this way, it's able to keep that context from before and being able to give me context and give me information and accomplish the tasks much more efficiently than if these two are just operating completely independently of each other. So that's really the key of it all. Now, let me give you one last example right here so you just really get the point here. So let's just say I want to generate a QBR deck for my top 3 customers this quarter and schedule a prep meeting, right? So how would that all work in terms of like the agentic workflow, right? So for example, it's going to go ahead, in this case, I've changed it up. We'll have an agents directory. Let's just say that in this network, I have just a directory of different agents that I know I can talk to, right? Because I'm in a controlled environment. Now, what happens, it's a little small here, but the client agent is then going to go ahead and see what all agents exist, and it's going to go ahead and create a plan, right? Oh, we should talk to our CRM agent and identify top customers. I want to gather some supporting data from my support agent, generate slides, and send out a meeting. So what does it do? It uses A to A, then talk to the first one, CRM agent, right? Which goes to the CRM tool and grabs the top 3 customers, right? It goes to the support agent, right? And then goes ahead and grabs information and ticket information for those top 3 customers. It generates slides using the slide generator agent. It goes to the calendar agent to then schedule meetings. And all this is possible is because we also have an MCP server there storing all that context. Right? So basically, the idea here is that client agent works with the directory here, creates an entire plan, and executes it on that autonomously. You didn't have to map any of those things out. Those things just exist there. So that's really a high level of what we're able to do here with the age of agents. So with that being said, I think you mastered the basics of what AI agents and generative AI is. So why don't we go ahead and switch and talk a little bit about what exactly is Cisco's agentic ops. Now, when it comes to agentic ops, it's really a whole entire history behind it, right? From the age of the internet, all the way to mobility with wireless, to the age of cloud. I know you all heard it, you all lived through those things, right? All the way to AI, right? Before AI was things like dynamic baselining, being able to learn trends, right? Being able to do just basic chatbot things. Now we're at agentic AI. And the question is, why do we need agentic AI? And the reason is because, I'm sure you're all living through it right now, IT is only getting more and more complex with additional devices, additional applications you need to deal with, additional technology, right? We're hearing from many different companies. We have so many alerts, 170,000 per hour. It is growing day by day. Not to mention, right? We've talked to many of you out there, and then one of the things that have been regurgitated over and over again is that, hey, we have so many problems that we don't feel like we have enough people to really deal with them all. So what we're trying to do here is that we want to utilize AI to really take the traditional ops to the next level, right? We don't feel like just traditional AOps or NetOps is enough anymore. Agentic ops with autonomy is really what's going to take it to the next level. We want to utilize a purpose-built machine learning model or a deep network model to be able to really do things autonomously for you, but not just for a specific domain, not just for, say, networking or for security. We want to go across the portfolio and bring together data from security, networking, collaboration, because the whole idea we understand is that for IT to have a good experience, you need to have everything work together. So really, it brings us to this. We have two main products here that really help us with agentic ops. We have AI assistants that really help us to bring data together from every single product. And secondly, we have AI Canvas to really give you cross-product collaborative troubleshooting. Now, I'm going to first go over AI assistants because that's really the core of it, and then talk about how we're able to utilize Canvas to really make all that data just fly. So with that being said, let's talk first about the Cisco AI assistant. Now, I'm sure you all have heard about it at some point, but I'm also sure that many of you do not know that we're actually building AI assistants across pretty much all of our key products today. Just look at this slide right here, right? Security, across security, networking, across Splunks, right? Cloud, ITSI, App Dynamics, Splunk Platform, Control Hub, you name it. It's really everywhere. Now, the thing about it all is that when it comes to AI assistants, they really do a few things, right? They help with your intra-product experience, right? If you're a Meraki assistant, it primarily helps with Meraki. If you're a ThousandEyes assistant, it helps with ThousandEyes, right? And they help you with things such as, hey, understanding documentation, summarizing it, helping with troubleshooting, configuration, optimization. Now, there's nuances, but that's the idea, right? It's helping you with your day-to-day experience. Now, some examples, if you have not seen them before, is like, for example, if I'm in Firewall, I can use it to summarize what policies I have. If I'm in Duo, I can ask it, hey, what users had authentication issues over the past period of time? Or let's just say, talking about ThousandEyes, I can ask it about different events and alerts that have happened over the past day or 5 days or so on and so forth. Right? That's the idea of what we're able to do here. Instead of navigating multiple dashboards, the whole idea is that I'm able to talk to a single assistant and for it to go look for me and do things that are usually multi-step in a single prompt, or maybe 2 prompts, 3 prompts, right? But much easier than ever before. Now, let's go ahead and talk about a few examples of some of these assistants and what they're actually capable of across some of our different portfolios today. So let's start off with security, right? So security, we have assistants across Firewall, Secure Access, Duo, Hypershield, Identity Service Engine, and of course now the brand new Security Cloud Control as well. Now, so many different things, and every single one of these actually have so many different capabilities. I'm just going to show you one for the sake of time, but if you wanted to learn more about any one of these, in the world of solutions, we have demos that are deep diving into every single one of these AI assistants that will help you to learn significantly more. So if we start with Firewall, right? Every single assistant today will have things that will help you to summarize documentation. For Firewall, it'll help you to do things for insights, or sorry, do things for policies. Create policies, summarize your policies, because you have so many, right? You have thousands of them that grow day by day as your enterprise grows, as the years go on, right? It'll help you to optimize them, help you to troubleshoot them, and help you to do things like interface with TAC to create a ticket for you, much easier than it is to do today. So why don't I go and show you just one of the skills here, right? It's called AI Ops. So for example, for Firewall, let's just say I'm curious about, hey, for some reason I feel like some of my clients are not performing very well when they're reaching out to the applications. I don't know why, right? So I suspect it's Firewall. So I'm going to ask it a question. The question is going to be, why is my firewall running slow? And it's going to go ahead and look at all my firewalls, and it's going to be able to say, hey, look, I'm able to see that there are 3 firewalls right here, and that this one right here is, let me go ahead and just slow down a little bit. I'm able to see that right here, there are 3 FTDs right here, and they are running slow, right? Now, let's just say I want to, and it gives you information such as, hey, this is critical, this is the time it happened. I want to learn about a specific one. I want to learn about element flows for my first FTD right there. Now, it's able to go ahead and look at across my dashboard and understand, hey, for this FTD, this is some information for it, right? This is the application, it's critical, and this is the CPU, this is the throughput, right? So basically information that you would have to dig up in your FMC or security cloud control can now be seen through in just one or 2 prompts, right? Now, let's just say this. I know that there's a critical risk, security risk right here. I want to resolve it. I don't know how. Just simply ask your AI assistant, how do I resolve it? And the thing about it is, remember we talked about this, right? We have context when it comes to LLM. We have multi-turn conversations. It's able to know that, hey, I was talking about LLM flows for this firewall FTD right here. So it's able to say, oh, all I typed in was how do I resolve this. It's able to reply back to me, to remediate LLM flows on the firewall FTD, you can enable this, do this, right? So the idea here is it gives you a custom thing of what you should be doing next. Whoops, sorry. Let's go back up here. Now, let's just say that, hey, I still actually am not sure about what exactly I should do here, right? And I'm going to ask the question, hey, can you help me raise a ticket to resolve this problem? So immediately what it does is it reaches out to our TAC AI assistant in the backend, our CX AI assistant,
which, by the way, this is part of our AI agent story, right? We have a CX agent that sits somewhere, and the firewall assistant is able to reach out to that AI assistant for CX, and then it's going to be able to take the context of what we talked about within this thread, which if you see right here, it says, okay, the device is this, which we just talked about, right? I'm going to diagnose and fix, which it took from the context of what you said. The title is my mitigation of element flows, right? And it gives you a description. So the idea is that it's saving you so much time of like, I got to type up a whole entire attack case, I got to switch a tab, I got to do a bunch of things. Instead, now, like all I need to do is click on open attack case. I can modify that if I wanted to, and that's it. Your attack case is submitted, and you can actually go ahead and just access that attack case directly by clicking on that hyperlink right there. It's that easy, right? This will be possible across every AI assistant, across every product. Now, let's show you another one right here. Let's talk about the AI assistant for secure access. Now, for those who are not familiar with secure access, right, the idea here for secure access is that it's able to basically, if you have a user, I can control what it's able to access, right? Is it accessing, can I access this private application or this public SaaS or this website, right? I can create user groups so that maybe engineering accesses something different from sales, right? That's what secure access is able to do for me. Now, just like firewall, there's so many things you want to do, right? Policy configuration, look at what policies exist, but digital experience monitoring, right? Understanding like why a user may not be having great experience across the WAN to an application. But importantly, one of the key things is troubleshooting as usual, right? That's the thing that we talked to many of you. You all mentioned that's what takes up most of your day today, right? Troubleshooting. So we have something for troubleshooting, for example. Now, take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and ask the secure access assistant, why can't Alex access intranet, right? Alex is a person, intranet as an application, and now I can type in all the information about Alex, which is like, hey, he has different device names, he has, how he's connected directly with natural language, right? And then I wouldn't be given this menu here. But let's just say I'm going to be generic, and I would say, hey, why can't Alex access intranet? So it'll ask me to, whenever for any assistant, if I'm not being clear enough, it'll come back and ask me additional questions about what information it needs to proceed to the next step, right? So instead of being stuck and hung up somewhere, it'll be able to ask clarification questions, which is basically what makes it so much more powerful. Now, if I go ahead and actually hit Analyze Event, what it does is that what normally an admin would do, it would go through the different steps of how a user would actually try to connect to an application, and then look step by step and tell you what is and is not working. And when it tells you something isn't working, it'll tell you what you should generally likely try to do next, right? If it is working, then it'll tell you it's good, right? But that's the idea of it, right? We're going to summarize what you need to do and tell you what you should be doing next. Now, let's talk about another one here. Cisco Duo. I'm sure you all know what Duo is, right? It's for two-factor authentication and for many other things when it comes to user identity and authentication, right? So a big thing also, right? Who likes to sift through logs here when it comes to troubleshooting? You like to sift through logs here? It's a hobby of yours? All right. Anyone else? All right. Yeah, I'm seeing this gentleman. I don't know if you're in the right place for this one, but but for everyone else, right? For everyone who doesn't like to sift through lots and lots of logs, because it's, for the most part, not fun. We have something, every single assistant is really specialized in doing things that are really just very tedious for you. And one of the things would be for Duo, for example, right? Someone can't log in for some reason, for whatever reason. What do you have to do? You have to go ahead and go to authentication logs within Duo and look at what the reason is, see if there's a repeated reason. Is it the impossible traveler? What is it, right? Huge pain, especially when it comes to an actual enterprise network, right? A lot of people can have issues potentially. So now I can go ahead and ask the question, why can't this person log in? And what it does is it'll go into my authentication logs and look over the past period of time and see, okay, these are the relevant ones. And what it does is that it'll show you exactly the Carfax right here, right? These are the two things that have issues, right? This person was denied at this time and this time. And it'll use an LLM to look at those events and then summarize it for you at the very top. So then at the very top, you can see it reads, the login attempt from this person resulted in denied no response after a push request was sent to this device, 1+, right? The user has logged 2 events over the last 7 days using 1 device. So how clear is that, right? Normally, I would have had to read the events, analyze it, sit down. Did I miss something, right? And then I got to figure those things out. It takes all time. This gentleman can probably do it very, very fast. But everyone else, it's a huge time spent. So that's really the core of it. Now, why don't we go ahead and take a look at another one, right? Let's go ahead and switch gears from security and take a quick look at what we have here when it comes to AI assistants for networking. So when it comes to networking, right? We have a ton of different things right here. Meraki, Catalyst, Thousand Eyes, SD-WAN, Intersight, you name it, right? So many different things, and they're all either have assistants that are available today, or in preview today, or being in development today, right? And many of these things you can go out and talk to and go into the world of solutions and learn about them. So please make sure you go and do that after this, right? I'll show you some very high-level things, right? When it comes to networking, it's really a few key things, right? It's all about understanding what's happening in your network, right? Visibility, helping you to troubleshoot. That's another big thing, right? There's complex workflows when it comes to creating different configurations. So configuring, right? And helping you to do multi-step configurations. And ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, with our security assistants, we also have things like support and TAC management. Because again, we want to make it as easy and seamless for you without having to manage to navigate to multiple pages. So let's talk about assistant for Meraki, for example. Let's just say, for example, I want to go ahead and troubleshoot a very specific client. I'm going to give it a MAC address. What it's going to be able to do for me is utilize that MAC address and look at and be able to see that, hey, look, well, this MAC address right here actually has a few failures, right? No DHCP acknowledged. It happened 5 times with this SSID connected to this access point. Very easy, right? Off the bat, I'm immediately able to see the most recent failure, right? Even if, like right now, perhaps the client is performing perfectly fine, right? It's able to see the most recent one. Now, we have a feature on Meraki called Intelligent Capture, for example, right? It's able to analyze the PCAP. It's able to send PCAPs to Meraki when there's an onboarding failure, for example, right? So I can say, hey, analyze that PCAP that was last uploaded. And it's able to see, oh yeah, from that PCAP that we're able to get insights from using Intelligent Capture on Meraki, I'm able to see that there is actually multiple DHCP servers seen, right? And here are some of the IPs. Now, the question for me, I'm a tier 1, I'm somebody who's brand new, let's just say. I don't really know what to do. So now I can have a conversation, right? This multi-turn conversation, and ask it, hey, well, I don't really know what to do. Like, how do I actually resolve this, right? So how do I actually understand this, right? So I'm gonna ask, hey, are there any other rogue DHCP servers? So it's gonna list out all of them, right? Gives me immediately more context. Now I can ask it, hey, how do I block it, right? Because I don't really know what to do. So it's gonna tell you, well, you can actually go here. This is what you would do to go block it. Go to switching, monitor, DHCP servers, ARP page, and enter the MAC address that you wanna, and the blocks DHCP server blocks, right? And then it gives you a source, like it always does for any of our documentation skills, on where you can learn more about it. It's that easy, right? Before I would have to go Google, look up the documentation, Control F, oh, that's not the place I should read, go somewhere else. It's a whole process that can now be done, which is a simple conversation with your assistant. Now, what about something else, right? Let's just say that I want to go ahead and talk about, hey, how do I optimize my network farther? I think my network is doing all right now, but I want to make it better, right? So I ask the question, what can I do to optimize this network? So the assistant tells me, hey, I think there's one thing that you can do. You can enable AI-enhanced RM, or AI-RN, right? Which is basically using AI to combine with your radio resource management to make it so that your entire Wi-Fi is just better. Your radio spectrum is just more clean, it's just more optimized, there's less interference, higher capacity, so on and so forth. But let's just say you're somebody, I don't even know what ARM is. I'm new. Again, you just ask the question, what is ARM? It tells you exactly what it is in a very summarized way. It doesn't give you a 10-page explanation, right? It just tells you this is a high level. If you want to learn more, go here. Very, very simple, right? And now you can ask the question, well, how do I want to know, do I really need it? Tell me, what's an access point that has high utilization, right? So it'll just tell you right away, well, there actually is one right here. My 2.4 gigahertz band is completely congested, 94%. As you all know, 2.4 oftentimes sucks, right? You don't want to enable it for every single AP more than often, because we're actually planning for 5 gig or 6 gig, right? So it tells you right here, your 2.4 gig is barely usable. So what do? We would be like, okay, I get it. How do I actually configure it then, right? Again, it's a conversation. I ask it, how do I configure ARM? Tells you the steps right there. Brings you to a source if you want to know more information about anything at all. So this is just one of the many, many workflows that exist for an AI assistant for a networking product like Meraki. So many different things, right? It can work for wireless, switching, routing, whatever it is. Now, let's talk about another one here, right? When it comes to Thousand Eyes, right? When it comes to Thousand Eyes, for those who, I'm sure you all know what Thousand Eyes is at this point, right? High level user to application over the WAN, over to understanding things like outages. I can now ask it a question. Hey, can you get information about a network outage in the last 5 days? And immediately, it's going to be able to look through your entire thing and say, hey, we detected 8 events, 7 medium severity, 1 high severity. Here's the time it happened. Here's the locations it happened, and a big block of text, right? But let's say, okay, this is kind of jarring to me. I don't like to read big paragraphs like this. I want to be able to have you help me and prioritize what I should actually be paying attention to. So I'm going to ask you to help me by asking, hey, can you help me to list it by top 5, the top 5 by severity, right? So that's exactly what it does. It lists the top by severity, right? This one right here is going to be high severity. It happened at this time, duration, how many is impacted, 1 test, 3 agents, locations, so on and so forth, right? Really helps me to now say, okay, I should probably do the number 1 first, and then number 2, number 3, then number 4, right? Again, before you have to look through your immense amount of alerts before to be able to figure that out. Now, let's say I have a very specific domain website that I'm actually trying to look into because that's what I'm in charge with, right? I'm going to say, give me more details for periodic-failure.com, right? Now, that name is obviously a test domain. It's called periodic failure, right? So, but the idea here is it's able to tell you, hey, look, we detected 7 medium severities related to this domain or this website, right? It happened during this time. We had 1 alert to it. There's no network outages, thank goodness, right? But immediately you have all the context you need off just a single question. You don't need to dig around to different websites or to different pages to learn those kind of things. Now, it goes back again. How do I resolve this problem, right? Now, again, it gives you an entire thing about, hey, I think you should do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, back in the day, I'm sure many of you are rolling your eyes like, oh man, it's another generic resolution again. I got to go and figure out what is even 1, what is even 2, I don't know, right? So let me tell you here, right? This is where it really makes it so much easier for you. I can ask it something about, tell me more about number 2, which is check network connectivity. Like, tell me how I specifically do that. Don't give me this generic BS, right? Tell me exactly how I should do this. So what I'll tell you is like, okay, well, based on what you were talking about, again, it takes some context from your multi-turn conversation and context, right? The issue, again, was this, Amsterdam, New York, right? This is your service provider. This is when it happened. Specifically for network connectivity, I think you should run trace routes from both Amsterdam and New York. I think you should check for packet loss and latency, right? So the idea here is it's going to go through and give you very specific instructions on what you should do for every single step. Now, that's really the power here of our AI assistants across networking. It could do so much more. This is just one of many different workflows that we're able to do here. So with that said, right, I want to talk about one last thing before we go into really how we're bringing it all together, because this is a really, really critical one. Now, we acquired Splunk not too long ago in the recent present, right? So just like all of the rest of Cisco, they're also creating assistants across their entire portfolio, from enterprise security to observability, ITSI. Now, the big thing, though, that I want to talk about here is for Splunk platform. Now, for those who are not completely familiar with Splunk, it's essentially a data platform that allows you to import and ingest logs from any sort of applications. For example, firewall from Cisco. I can send it both connection logs, security logs. I can send it not just from Cisco, right? I can send it from Fortinet. I can send it from any other application. Can utilize Splunk. Now, the thing about Splunk, though, is that if I want to get data from where it's being stored, it is something that you have to learn something called SPL, which is search processing language, right? You could think of kind of like I'm using SQL for databases. Same thing. I need to type in some sort of query so that I can grab the information I want, because the data that's within the database is very, very immense. But the thing about it is that I'm sure not all of you here are Splunk experts. And let's just say I want to quickly go get some data from my Splunk platform. Now I got to learn SPL. It's a whole thing. I got to go figure that out, right? So what we do here when it comes to Splunk ASPL Assistant is that they make it easy for you also with natural language. Now, instead of having to go figure out SPL or talk to your local Splunk expert, I can type in a natural language, and it'll transform that natural language into SPL for me that I can go ahead and execute. Now, let's just say also somebody else that created an entire dashboard on Splunk, some guy who's a Splunk power user, and they quit, right? They just left, whatever reason, and now you're tasked to take over. Now you have to figure out how this dashboard works. You want to enhance it, but you're like, wait a minute. This is so much SPL, I don't know how to read it. All you need to do is it could do the reverse. You type in the SPL within the assistant, it tells you in natural language what it does. So that's really what we're able to do here. It makes things so much easier for you. Now, to give you an example of what we're able to do here, let's just say I'm going to ask the question, what disk has the least amount of free space in WinHostMod, right? It's going to be able to go ahead and create me an entire SPL query that I can go ahead and just use, and it's going to give me the data off the bat. So let's go back a little bit and take a look, right? This is going to be the SPL query that it generates, right? Now, let's just say, for example, I go and click on Open and Search, and I see that this is not exactly what I want. simply go back here and type it. Hey, I actually want to do this instead. Natural language, right? Anything you want, anything your heart desires, just say it. It'll be able to modify that. Now, the other example I was giving earlier was that, say this was the dashboard, the SPL query that was in the dashboard, right? That was creating the dashboard. Now, for most people who are not experts in Splunk, this is pretty jarring. Most people have absolutely no idea what this is doing, right? So again, instead of having to worry about this, I can just go ahead and copy and paste this directly into here, click Explain SPL, and then it's able to immediately tell me, hey, look, this is what it's doing, right? This can be broken down to the following components: data source and content, data filters, data aggregation, right? So on and so forth, right? So now, I'm sure all of you at the very least can figure out how to read the English here and figure out generally what it's doing and be able to add on to it after that. So it makes it so that instead of having to take these like 20 courses just to learn SPL very deeply, you can really expand it across the board. So I hope that from this, you really see the power when it comes to AI assistants. So I'm not going to go into any deeper into AI assistants, right? You guys can go and actually figure this out yourself when you go to the world of solutions. What I want to talk about now is really get into the meat of it, which is unifying AI assistants. How do we utilize all this incredible content and data to be able to create you that network of AI agents? Now, when it comes to IT, right, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's all about cross-product. Networking needs to work with collaboration, which needs to work with security to make it all work, right? Because it's not very easy, right? You have IT experiences where the different personas are silos. Security only works on security. Networking also only works on networking. You got to file multiple tickets. I don't need to convince you any further, right? So instead, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to unify Cisco. We're going to be unifying all Cisco AI assistants to create that network of AI agents that are able to give you what we call cross-product skills and data across every single domain. Now, what you see right here is basically two things. You can see that AI assistant is connected to all these different things, all of our key platforms, and you'll actually see down there, Canvas is also there as well. Basically, these are one and the same, right? They're going to both be the entryway into that central AI platform that's going to be able to enable all this for you. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what it's really going to provide you, right? When it comes to the assistant, it's providing you with a few main things, right? Number one is going to be cross-product skills, right? Number one, we're calling it native skills here. What essentially is, hey, if I am on firewall and I want to use a skill on Meraki because I see an IP address as being a little bit sketchy and I want to learn more context, I can use a cross-product skill. I could be like, hey, tell me more about this IP address, like, what's this host name, what's it connected to? It can reach out to Meraki Assistant, have that executed there, and the data is brought back. So now, from firewall, where I don't normally have that information, all I have is an IP address, I now have entire context of how things are connected. And then beyond that, right, we have more complex skills that we can do. We have calling it, for example, it could be predefined within Cisco, it could be or it could be done using our ML reasoning. But the point is that, for example, if I have a complex request, hey, my wireless is not working. Now, the first thing would be like, oh, let's go check out wireless health in, like, say, Meraki dashboard. But it might not be because of that. There might be multiple different things in the backend that you want to check, right? You might want to check Meraki. You might want to check, something else, right? The point is that now, what we're going to be able to do is that wherever you're requesting it, our central reasoning agent will be able to take in those requests, understand it, and then send those prompts to the multiple different assistants across Cisco, execute that, and bring the data back to you. So from a single source, I'm not just focusing on intra-product experience, I'm expanding it to inter-product experience. So let's talk about a little bit about the components about how some of these things really work. Now, we're going to keep it kind of high level, but you'll get the concept of it. Now, the first thing you want to know about is that we have something called a central AI platform, right? The idea of a central AI platform is that that's the back end in which all assistants across Cisco are going to be connected. That's how that's going to be what's powering our network of AI agents. Now, when it comes to AI assistants or anything like LLM assistants, right? We have something called an orchestrator. In this case, we're calling it a unified orchestrator. And the idea of how it's going to work is that every single AI assistant across Cisco will send prompts to our central AI platform, which inside will have something called a unified orchestrator, which will have things like reasoning and planning agents, which will be able to determine what prompts should go to where, or one agent, or another agent, or multiple other agents, right? And how it will do that is that it uses something called a skills registry within the unified orchestrator, which will be filled with all skills and context across all of Cisco's AI assistants. So for example, Meraki skills, firewall skills, ThousandEyes skills will all be available if they're there. So then when someone sends us a prompt into the unified orchestrator, it'll be able to go ahead and use the context from the skills registry and be like, oh yeah, that prompt should be answered by this product, and this product, right? That's the idea. Now, there's one more thing you guys all should know about. The question will be like, well, how do I know that? How does the whole AI system even know that I own these other products, and how do they know that what my RBAC is, and that's a whole question we get all the time, right? So we have another solution here called unified identity. Now, there's going to be an entire thing where now all Cisco products are going to be moving towards a central identity authentication service, so that let's just say you're somebody in Catalyst Center, right? I'm going to be able to authenticate through unified identity, and then be able to have a token exchange that tells me that, hey, you also have entitlement. Me as Richard, I have entitlement not just to Catalyst Center, but also to firewall, also to identity service engine. So when a prompt comes into our unified orchestrator, it's going to be able to look at the skills registry with that context that, hey, I can also use skills from these other two products and be able to return it from them. That's the idea. And it's not going to give you information from things you should not have access to, because unified identity will be able to be that single management plane for all your cross-product identity and access. Now, there's more information to that we could talk about offline, right? Those are a lot of things are still in progress, but these are some very exciting developments, right? It's really going towards that unified experience that we've been talking about at Cisco for so long. Now, to really go a little bit deeper into this, right? The way that it's really truly going to work, right, is we're going to unify through that agentic platform-based approach, right? Piecing those things that we just talked about, the central AI platform, the unified orchestrator, the AI skills registry. Now, what's going to happen is that when it comes to any AI assistant, once we have this all GA'd and ready to go for you guys, is that from any assistant, when I send in any prompt, right, which is like, hey, help me troubleshoot this, or hey, give me logs for that, or whatever, it first sends it to the planning agent that lives within our unified orchestrator within our central AI platform. Now, when it sends that prompt, like I talked about earlier, it also sends a unified identity token, right? So that's number one, right? That's how it knows who you are. Now, within our unified orchestrator, you could think of it as within, we have something called a planning agent. It understands what your prompt is. It takes in who you are, what's your RBAC, what platform are you getting this from, and takes in context from the AI skills registry, and then gives you an entire plan. Hey, number one, I'm firewall. I want to go ahead and troubleshoot my logs. Oh yeah, I know that you have logs in Splunk, so I'm going to go to the step one, go to Splunk. Right? Step two, analyze logs. Step three, learn more context about that malicious IP. Right? Now, we also implement something else called human in the loop. Right? It's the key thing when it comes to agentic AI is that we want to have the ability to improve it. So let's just say it comes up with a plan, and I don't really like that plan. I think that step two should be changed to something else. You'll have an ability to do that, right, with human in the loop. So it'll be able to take in your feedback, right? I want to change step two to do a different skill. It'll be able to reference the AI skills registry, right, and verify that that's something that we can do. And then when you actually say, yes, let's go ahead and execute on the plan, we'll have agentic tools. We'll be able to go ahead and talk to the other assistants that we think, in this case, let's just say Splunk, right? And be able to execute that prompt and bring the data back to the originating assistant. Right? That's the power of how we're going to be doing our agentic platform-based approach for unifying our AI assistants and creating that network of agents. Right? Now, give you a few examples right here. Like, how does it really work underneath? Just to give you guys, make it a little bit more clear. Let's just say right here, right, and this is going to be a very, very 30,000 feet high-level thing. Right? Let's just say this is how our skills registry looks like. Right? We have some skills right here from firewall. This is the skill name. This is the description. This is some of the prompts that you can use to invoke it. There's going to be significantly more metadata than that, but this is the idea. Let's just say from firewall, I ask it a prompt. Right? It's going to go and figure out. It's going to go into unified orchestrator. Unified orchestrator is going to learn. Oh yeah, this is a firewall skill because I'm able to know from the tokens. I'm able to know from who asked the question. I know from the prompt, and it sends it back to firewall to answer that question. Right? Now, what if it's a cross-product skill, right? It's going to be a little different, right? Say firewall asks a prompt, that's most likely going to be a Meraki skill, right? What happens, again, is that it goes into the skills registry, is able to go ahead and reference, hey, yo, that prompt is most likely going to be a Meraki skill. And it's able to go ahead and then send it to Meraki. Meraki will go ahead and execute that and sends it back to firewall, right? Again, there's much more reasoning that goes in. It's not just going to be like a lookup table, right? It's just using that for context, but there's much more that is taken into account. But let's take a look at another one. Let's just say there's a much more complex thing that we need to do, right? So within Cisco, we're going to be creating these composite skills, or you can call them runbooks as well, which essentially are if you type in a prompt, right, and they require multiple steps, right? We're going to be able to go ahead and execute those multiple steps. Say for example, I'm just calling it generically, a firewall composite skill prompt, right? As in that prompt is going to invoke multiple other skills. You could think of it like this. You could think of it like, hey, we have a specific registry for these composite skills, that Cisco firewall team has crafted because we know that these are common problems that you need to solve. Right? And say that composite skill right there is going to invoke a skill from Rocky and a skill from Splunk. Right? It goes ahead, it's able to understand that's the prompt you want, again, using the same reasoning and context, and goes ahead and execute those two other skills that does what you want. Right? And it brings it to those other two assistants and it brings the response back to you. That's the idea here. Right? Now, this is what we do for predefined, right? As in, we're going to create a bunch of runbooks. But to take it above and beyond, right? What we're also going to be doing is that, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to create runbooks for 100% of all scenarios in the future, always, right? It's going to be a scalability issue, right? What we're going to be doing is that we're also going to be building upon our deep learning model that we talked about earlier in the keynote, and making it so that we have a lot of reasoning that's going to be able to learn from what prompt that you put in. So let's just say, for example, you enter a prompt that doesn't have a one-to-one match with something else that's within the skills registry. Our reasoning model is going to be able to say that, oh yeah, look, I think that skill 1 kind of looks like it could figure it out, but skill 2 should also help give additional context. So now, rather than just predefined prompts, right, predefined skills, it's going to be able to learn and say that, this complex prompt right here should actually invoke both skill 1 and skill 2 and does that dynamically. Right? So over time, it's going to be able to learn what IT admins, what NetOps, IT ops, like yourselves, are doing to solve problems, learn from those things, right? Of course, we're going to verify everything with human in the loop and make it so that our reasoning model is able to automatically do things and be able to just support more and more scenarios that you would often do when it comes to any sort of troubleshooting. Now, ultimately, what does this all do? All of this eventually goes down to two things. It gives you scalable data across your products, right? It gives you lowered MTTR with more capable AI assistants, right? That's really the key of it all, right? And there's so many different use cases that we're able to do. For example, if I want to supplement dual authentication logs with activity logs from secure access, if I want to grab data from Splunk to bring my firewall, if I want to troubleshoot across the LAN WAN campus branch from Catalyst Center by looking at ICE ThousandEyes SD-WAN, if I want to use ThousandEyes and troubleshoot across the board from the user all the way to past the WAN, all the way to things like call quality with Control Hub, you can now do that, right? You'll be able to do that with these cross-product skills. So just to give you a little bit of inspiration about the possibilities of what we're enabling here by creating a network of AI agents, right? So remember, think of it as every assistant on every single product is an AI agent in relation to that one assistant that you're currently working with, right? So I want to give you guys a quick demo to show you guys what this is all about. Now, to give you guys a quick demo, a quick premise is that it's going to happen on Security Cloud Control. So if you guys don't already know what Security Cloud Control is, Security Cloud Control is essentially our platform that we've created to basically be that one unified management plane. Now, originally it was for firewall, but now you can also provision things like secure access, multi-cloud defense, hypershield, AI defense, secure workloads, so on and so forth, right? All to a single platform called Security Cloud Control. So now the premise here is that imagine that you're somebody who was I'm going to go ahead and refresh this just in case anything happened during the 41 hour I talked. The idea here is that let's just say that you are a firewall admin that just got a ticket saying that, hey, there's something sketchy going on the network and you go ahead and investigate. I'm going to go ahead and just use my AI assistant within Security Cloud Control and type in, have any compromised host been found on my network today? Now, immediately is able to detect based on our skills registry, hey, this actually looks like a Splunk query. So it's able to show you that, right? Now, let's make it a little bit smaller, right? Let's say, have any compromised host been found on my network over the past 1 hour, right? So what immediately it does, now remember our agentic platform-based approach. It's going to go ahead and create a plan for me. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and retrieve logs, malware events from Splunk, because the premise is also that my firewall is currently constantly exporting logs to Splunk. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and identify the host and malware types. I'm going to go ahead and provide a summary of the logs and next steps. Now, what else it's going to do is that what it's doing in the background is that it's actually sending these natural language prompts directly to the Splunk SPL assistant. So in the back end, it's doing that, right? The SPL assistant, again, if you remember, it takes in the natural language, and it's able to go ahead and grab that, execute it, run it through an LLM, and sends all that data back to you in Security Cloud Control. So now, instead of having to go to Splunk, I'm able to see directly an LLM summary. Hey, from this time to this time, this source IP 10.10.0.10 is sending a bunch of files, right? These different zip files that are been flagged as malicious to 89, 238, 73, 97, right? And it tells you there's 17 of them that happened over the past 1 hour. Here are the Carfax, right? You can see exactly right here. I can go ahead and download the logs, right, to view it. I can view it in Splunk if I wanted to, right? I already have it preloaded right here, so just take a look, right? It will bring you to the same site. So you can see that this is real data. We really have a client right here sending files. So that instead of having to go to this page and figure it out, right, which would it be not that easy, right? You have to sift through a lot of logs. You can now understand it right off the bat. Now, again, let's talk about the thing, right? Like you're in security products, right? The problem with security products, again, is that yes, it helps me to understand what might be infected, what might be, hijacked, right? Because right now I'm thinking that this client must be hijacked. I don't know why it's sending so many things, or maybe it's somebody from external. I don't know what it is. So the thing about it is that I'm going to go ahead and ask it to investigate additional context for that 10.10.0.10, right? Because, for example, networking is much better at telling me what 10.10.0.10 is, right? It tells me the host name, where it's connected. So that's what it was trying to do. I'm going to use 10.10.0.10 to look at all my other products in my ecosystem and then tell me additional information. And when I did that, it was able to tell me, hey, this client is actually, the name of it for 10.10.0.10 is actually desktop something, and it's connected to this access point within my Meraki network, which is connected to this organization, Bay Area, San Francisco building floor 3. And it also was able to find that, hey, this actually existed in ThousandEyes, right? And this client has an agent score of 43%, high CPU and memory. Now, this is, again, an LLM summary of the data it was able to bring back, because we can use LLM to just make it so that instead of having to read through all this data right here, it just tells me all the important things I should know. So if you look down here, again, we're showing you the actual data, right? From Meraki itself, I can see a topology, right? From ThousandEyes, I can see the actual endpoint agents topology and see the agent score is low and see additional information such as what kind of device type is it, what kind of OS is it running, right? So on and so forth. And again, I can cross-launch it into Meraki, for example, right? And it'll show me that, look, this client really does exist, right? It shows me this. There's a client right here, 10.10.0.10. This is how it's connected, right? I can also go to ThousandEyes if I wanted to and see some additional information, such as, time me out, but you get the information, you get the point. It shows my entire topology and how the tests have been running over the past period of time. But last but not least, we want to close a loop, right? We always want to see what we can actually, how we solve the problem. It's not just about telling you about the problems. So for example, now I can, in this case, I can apply a group policy block on this client through Meraki to quarantine from the network. So then when I go ahead and hit apply group policy to client, once it does that, it closes the loop, the problem is solved, and everything is good, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that this is actually just one of many, many, many different possibilities of workflows that you can do to be able to solve your problems, right? But remember, you came from the context of a firewall admin that knew absolutely nothing, to understanding there's a problem, to understanding where this problem's happening, all the way to being able to resolve it all from a single screen of your assistant, right? That's really the power here of unifying it all. Now, why don't we go ahead and, so this right here, just to be clear, right? It's a demo that we created here. It's something that we're going to be actually building out, right? We're working on building it out right now. Now, there are things that are already available as of today on Security Cloud Control. And what's available as of today of Security Cloud Control is that for any products that are provisioned to Security Cloud Control that have an AI assistant, such as Firewall, Secure Access, Hypershield, so on and so forth, right? We've integrated it all into the assistant that exists in Security Cloud Control today. So for example, on Security Cloud Control, it already has, if you ask it any questions for documentation, it'll be able to answer you questions about XDR, Firewall, Secure Access, Hypershield, Duo, AI Defense, right? It'll be able to give you, you can use any skills from Firewall, Secure Access, Hypershield, and CX TAC, right? So let me just show you how this works. And if you have Security Cloud Control, you can use it today already. So I'm asking the question, how can I secure my network with different Cisco security products? And it was able to immediately utilize agents within, my documentation agent within my Security Cloud Control assistant, and identify what the relevant products are going to be: Firewall Management Center, Secure Access, XDR, Duo, Hypershield, as well as AI Defense, right? And then the idea here is it gives a high-level description of what these things all are, as well as points you to the exact documentation that exists right there. Now, the question some of you might have is like, well, why don't I just go ahead and ask ChatGPT? Why am I going to your assistant? Now, I want to remind you all that our assistant here is very much fine-tuned to every single product that we have here. So if you ask ChatGPT, there's a good chance it's going to hallucinate some of the things, some of the steps that you need to take to configure things, or some of the features that we do have. I've tried it myself. It's happened many times. Beyond that, you're definitely not going to get the proper sources, right? We have fine-tuned this to give you guys the exact sources that you would need to be able to understand what to do next. Now, let's just say I want to go ahead and I want to create a block rule on firewall. I can just type in create a block rule, right? And it's able to identify that, well, this is most likely a firewall context because I currently have firewall installed provision on my security cloud control, right? I can just do some things like I can create my policy if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that, right, because it's just a demo, but you can see that it's able to immediately identify that's a firewall skill. Now, let's do something else, right? Let's say I want to go ahead and try to do, I want to do a firewall optimization skill, right? I can go ahead and just type in which one of my firewall policies can be optimized. And again, it's able to identify, okay, yeah, this is likely going to be a firewall skill again. And I'm going to go ahead and route the prompt to my firewall assistant, which is going to be able to identify that and be able to give me a response for that. Now, what do we go ahead and try something else, right? I want to go ahead and type, I have a problem here. I want to go ahead and open an attack case. Now, I can type in, can you help me open an attack case, right? Now, instead of going to the firewall agent, right, now it's able to go to the attack CX agent to be able to ask that question, right? The prompt gets routed there and ultimately comes back. And now you can enter the problem description, case title, whatever that you want it to do to be able to do that. Now, it's really cool because it's not just about creating cases. You could look at existing cases that have happened, right? I can look at, hey, what cases do I have open? Oh yeah, you have case number this is the subject, this is the priority, right? You can modify it, right? You can also type in things like, hey, what, do I have any attack cases for that very specific issue, firewall performance or something else performance, or it's able to look at all the description and metadata across all your attack cases and choose and query the ones that are very relevant to specifically that. Now, last but not least, we can also talk about, let's just say, Hypershield, right? I want to ask a question, hey, explain the severity of this CVE right here. It's going to be able to be like, okay, well, firewall doesn't have that skill. Hypershield doesn't have that skill, though. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that question. This is what the CVE does. This is the vulnerability. It's log4j, so on and so forth, right? Things that normally you wouldn't be able to do from firewall. It's able to go to Hypershield. So the point I'm trying to make here is that in security cloud control, we already have this agentic approach that's going to be adding more and more security products to it so that if you're doing security management, you can already utilize a unified AI assistant. Now, why don't we go ahead and talk about the next thing? How do we take it to the next level? Because I think at this point, it's very clear that with AI assistance, it really provides you with endless possibilities to give you a 10x experience with this AI agent concept. Right? You can really utilize all your products to the fullest extent without opening up like 10 tabs to figure out every single thing, which all have different workflows and user experiences. So how do we actually take AI assistance across and above and beyond to the next level, right? That's really what we were talking about earlier during the keynote, right? It's really about AI Canvas. Now, when it comes to Canvas, right, we saw that AI Assistant is really able to grab data from different products. AI Canvas is able to take it to the next level by making it so that you're able to utilize rich visualization really to the next level because I can utilize my entire real estate on my screen to do things like correlation, to show tables, to show charts that I never would have been able to see before. But the best part of it all is not static. It's not I'm just like creating the predefined dashboard and visualizing it. We're using data and we're able to generate different types of charts. I can modify any one of these charts in different ways I want to view them. And the most important thing is that now it enables collaboration. Because normally when it comes to doing any sort of troubleshooting, you need to get on a WebEx call and now you got to explain to that person, oh yeah, this is the problem, this is what I did, step 1, step 2, step 3, it's not working. Now, instead of this, there's a much easier way to do it. And I'll get right into it. Now, a really key thing I like to emphasize again is that the AI Canvas is built directly on our deep learning model, right? Our deep network model, right? And this right here, if you didn't go to the keynote, is that something that we train ourselves. It's the LLM that's trained on our 40 years of networking experience to really give you incredible information that's going to be released very, very shortly. It's going to be able to help you solve things like the CCIE. And you can see right here, when it comes to networking information, it's going to be able to outperform majority of the models out there today. Because again, at Cisco, we're really focused on fine-tuning for specifically networking. Right? We're trying to help you with NetOps, everything it takes. Now, when it comes to the AI Canvas, to really clear the boat, right? To clear the air. That AI assistant on the very left right there, What is that unified AI assistant I talked about earlier, right? That assistant that is using the agentic platform-based approach to get information from everywhere. So when we're talking to that assistant, that's really what we're using in the backend with that central AI platform, unified orchestrator, and skills registry to get that data to be able to populate that in the AI canvas, right? To give you diagnostics, to give you correlations. Now, a really cool thing about Canvas, right, is really that you're able to do multi-step troubleshooting, right? When you type in any questions, just like with Assistant, it's going to be able to do things like, hey, I think step 1, I should do this, step 2, I should do this, right? But the point is that I'm able to really visualize it properly in a place that really allows me to troubleshoot. Because I'm sure that many of you are thinking, okay, assistants are great, but I need a little bit more than just a paragraph of text or a few bullet points of text. I need to be able to see it visually, right? Because I still need, looking at just text still makes me think, right? And although like assistants can do some rich visualization, right? The power of having an actual dashboard is still going to be very much merited. So the key thing here is that we have collaboration, right? Again, what you're able to do now is that you can actually share this AI canvas with other people within your company. If I click on invite, I can share this with other people to give them access. I can click on, it might be hard for some of you in the back to see, generate summary, right? And when you generate summary, it creates an entire paragraph of what happened. What's the problem I'm trying to do here? What have I done so far? What's happening in this board right here? Because again, although I'm a network expert, I see an entire dashboard. It's kind of jarring. I got to spend like 30 minutes looking at it and be like, hey, what am I looking at here? I don't have any context. It tells you exactly what's going on. And in fact, it's going to be able to summarize each individual widget for you, right? You can ask it to summarize. Hey, summarize that. What's happening there? What's happening there, right? And it'll be able to give you an LLM summary with our networking model, exactly what's going on. So you're able to catch up right off the bat. So again, like the example we gave before was, hey, you're a tier 1. You want to pass it on to tier 2? Invite them, right? They're able to figure out themselves much faster than before where you have to write this detailed ticket to pass it on to them. Now, the thing about it all is that we're going to be powering this all with that central AI platform that we were using to unify all of our AI assistants earlier to create those products, skills across the different domains, right? You can think of it as every assistant, every AI canvas is really a window into that backend infrastructure of data, right? Using that unified orchestrator, which you can really think of the unified orchestrator as an AI router, right? We're really routing different prompts to different products, right? And bringing data back, right? That's really how you can think of it when it comes to like something when we're using networking terminology. So hopefully from this presentation here today, right, really the takeaway for agentic ops is that agentic ops is really not just for giving you insights, right? It's really for doing resolution. I'm hoping you're seeing that for all these different demos that really you can talk to it, give multi-turn conversations, and it's giving you the actual answers of what you should do next or what you should do directly, right? You can execute directly from there. And it's able to give you intelligence across all of Cisco's platforms, across all of Cisco's products, domains, across security, networking, collaboration, so on and so forth. And it's all going to be driven by our most advanced LLM that you're going to be able to utilize yourselves shortly and test out yourselves. So with that being said, that's my presentation here on agentic ops. I hope you guys had a great value from this conversation here today. If you had any questions for it, feel free to come talk to me afterwards. I'm happy to talk to you and talk about some of our vision, talk about when things might be coming out, so on and so forth, and some things that may be pertaining specifically to your environment. If you have enjoyed this presentation, please make sure to complete your survey, give me some good scores. If you'd like me to come back and create content for you, it directly helps me out, so I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you all for coming here. Have a great rest of the week here at Cisco Live.